very intuitive system.
Thank you.
What was the most important thing to capture? Because there is this element that I don't know that everyone's aware of, is it's not only, it's still crunchy, it's still mechanical, but you're also giving mechanics to really fun things like, say, the Rogue Syndicate. Like, you have someone who maybe can snipe from a distance on your behalf, like an NPC, as an ability. Like, you kind of bake in that you have X amount of contacts, and you are able to capture kind of a broader spectrum of what we love about fantasy in video games, in novels, because of that. There's the mixture of social and mechanics, or even social-based damage.
Yeah,
is really cool. But
the stress builds and stuff.
Yeah, anyone who's ever been in a conversation that was really high stakes has definitely taken social damage. Mark of stress.
Yeah. What was key thing to capture while you were designing Daggerheart?
I think we had a bunch of design principles that we kind of laid out before we even got started. So we had a very clear path on what we wanted for the game. And at the very top of that list for me was like, make a game that feels like it flows with the fiction. Make it narrative first, and let the mechanics come out of that. And so all along the way, we'd always check a lot of the design principles to ensure that what we were making fit within those. But the big one that we'd always go back to is does this help us tell a story? And if it's not helping us tell the story of that class, or the story of that ancestry, or of that community, and if it wasn't small enough to fit on a card, probably wasn't right for Daggerheart. And that limitation, right, the small section where the class features are, the small amount of space you have for the cards, that told us whether or not a mechanic was the right size for what we were making. I don't know if you have anything else that comes to mind for you.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting working now in a post-core release world has really caused me, at least, to go back to the design principles as if it were the beginning, because everything that we do now has to continue to fit in with everything that we built previously. And before, we had this big project of making a really strong foundation, and that meant that some things we knew we wanted to make had to wait. That meant we had to really go back to the basics and simplify in kind of this beautiful way. But now, going back to it, one of the things that I found comes up a lot is say yes until you have to say no. And that's, it kind of manifests in the way of Ancestry's function as this open door for people to come in and say, do you want to be a Dracona that's more human? Do you want to be one that's mostly dragon? Do you want to be a Samia that's a little capuchin monkey? Do you want to be an orangutan? Ancestry say yes to a lot of options, but then there are some places in the game where it's really fun to say no, and the constraints are such an important part of the design. And so I think working in an expansion place now, everything we do going on top of core, I find myself reevaluating that.
Yeah, we find that saying yes is the thing that drives the collaborative role-playing fun at the table, and saying no is the thing that grounds it in having rules and it feeling fair. And so your balance of that, of finding the right balance of that, was really important.
And anyone who's ever gone to improv training has heard the thing about sometimes saying no is actually saying yes. And because we're basing the game in a narrative first approach, we do touch on those classic improv filmmaking tenets that you and I know really well, and a lot of members of our team channel as well.
Daggerheart's only been out there for a few months, but there's a tremendous interest in playing the game. And I'm getting into as many games as I can by using Start Playing. Start Playing is a great resource for people who want to find any type of game that they want to play, and they want to play right now. So you can search any type of game that you're looking for, any platform, any timing that works best for you. You can look at Game Master reviews. You can choose what type of platform that the game is played on. all on Start Playing. This is a tremendous resource. More than 80,000 players are using it. You get $10 off your very first game session on Start Playing by clicking on the link in this video description, playing Daggerheart or any other game on Start Playing. Now back to the interview. So you've got the base Daggerheart game done now, is launched. What has been the reception? And what has that reception felt like for both of you?
Amazing. I think we're so lucky. Putting anything out into the world is nerve-wracking, of course, but I have been so excited to see, in particular, people say, kind of echo the sentiment that you just said, which is that the game really jives with how their table plays.
Yeah.
That they see themselves represented in the game in exciting ways, that they see their play style represented in the game, that they feel inspired. God bless the Reddit. Like, everyone is so kind over there,
so good.
And has been sharing their enthusiasm in such a really wonderful way.
Yeah, I mean, I think any time that you launch something creative, you hope that people see the vision that you had for it. And we've been very lucky that we launched and then we sold out.
Yeah,
and
I
then
know.
we restocked and then we sold out again. And that just like doesn't happen. Like, it was astounding to see the level of support that we saw, and we thought we knew, what the audience was, and it exploded outside of anything we ever could have imagined. And to be a part of building something like that, for me, is kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, this is, you don't get to make Daggerheart. Like, I didn't ever think I'd get to make Daggerheart, right? Like, it's the kind of game that is so big and is taking so many big swings, and also playing in a space that people are so familiar with, but asking you to engage with it in a way that maybe they aren't so familiar with, that feels new to some people. And so that's really scary. And so it's been really cool to see people take that on and really embrace the style of play. And I think one of the other really fun things for me is that, like, there are so many people that love the kinds of games that are already out there. I love playing all kinds of games, right? And making games for me, for us, is really about like finding the place where we're interested in a game operating and making a game for that, for us. And so with those games already existing, we sort of were like, this is the space that we're interested in playing in, that we want our campaigns to be in. And we just built for that. And so it's very cool to see, like, hey, people that want to play a super crunchy game, they have all these options. People that want to play maps and minis and initiative, they have that option and they can go play that game. But if you want to play this style game, this is what we have on offer, right? And like, that freedom of being like, we don't have to make a game for everybody. A game for everybody is a game for nobody. Let's make a game for somebody. And let's let the audience for that thing come to it. And we found that they have.
I've been watching a lot of your videos, actually, in your interviews. I know what your favorite campaign setting is. You call them frameworks.
Yeah, campaign frames.
What's your second favorite? Because, well, first off, what's your first favorite? And it was a surprise to you, wasn't it?
It's Colossus of the Drylands. Is that what I?
Yeah, Colossus.
Yeah.
Colossus of the Drylands is very. I mean, it's. I love stuff like that. I love giant behemoths and Colossus, and then in that desert landscape, that's super fun.
Colossus, I think, is my favorite also because it surprised me. Campaign frames came about later in the process. I remember the day that you explained them to me, and we were like, we have to do it, and we have to figure out how to make it happen. And it was a sprint to the finish line getting them in there, and we knew it was the right choice. And so while we were divvying up the kind of colossal amount of work that needed to be done, I tapped out on the Colossus campaign frame because, as Spenser conceived it, it was kill big thing. And that was the seed of the idea.
And I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I know that I want to play in a campaign where I'm climbing giant colossi and fighting them. I don't know where else to go from there, but that's something that is a fantasy for me that I want to fill.
Yeah.
And in a world where time is limited and we have to go right away, I was like, that one's not for me. I don't like to wear down bags of hit points. Apparently I forgot how our game was designed when I said that. And we gave it to Carlos Cisco, and he did a really wonderful job with it. And he put this seed of a gold rush in it. And it wasn't as flat. It didn't exist in the way that it exists now. And I remember reading through it and I was like, everybody stop, this is it. And I was like, Carlos, that is the thing. It's so wonderful. And we expanded it out to be cowboys fighting colossi.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And I think I love that because it proved me wrong, and then it kept proving me wrong, and it was just a delight to work on.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic launch, but the next thing that everyone's asking is, what is next? Like, what happens next?
Yeah.
You just released.
It's such a good question. Yeah. I would love to know.
You would love to know. But you very specifically, you have the Void, which for people that don't know is essentially the playtest for Daggerheart. So if you think of Unearthed Arcana for D&D, the Void is playtest for Daggerheart. And in it, you just released just now transformations, which are really awesome because you have the ability to become a vampire, a werewolf.
Yeah.
You can be, a creature that has been stitched together. You have a lot of different, and a demigod as well. Run me through some of those. And also you had some recent updates to the Void as well when it comes to the Witch, the Warlock, the Brawler.
The Assassin.
The Assassin, of course.
I would love for you to talk about transformations because these were your baby, God, a year ago.
Yeah.
They're still in core.
We were still in core, and of course, when you're designing, you imagine 1,000 different things, and some folks started talking about vampires and werewolves and things like that as possible ancestries, and I was adamant that they not be ancestries in Daggerheart, because in Daggerheart, personhood is not only granted to humans. I just had the conversation actually the other day with Jeremy and Chris, where I had to go, well, in the real world, when you become a vampire, you start with humanity and that's all you get. But in Daggerheart, you could be a ribbit that becomes a vampire. You could be a Qatari that becomes a werewolf. There's no reason not to have that.
Yeah.
And I went to you
and
I was like, I need you to hear me out. I think we can make this work. The fun is in being able to mix and match, and I really felt very strongly that to limit us to vampires and werewolves and undead in particular, and ghosts only being people, like human coded, was ignoring all the work that we'd put in on Ancestries in core, and you believed me.
Well, I mean, you brought me a pitch, and I was like, that sounds great, because we hadn't done any work on them yet, I don't think, and we had just people had talked about wanting them, but when one of the things about building the core game is there's a lot of stuff that would come up in our design room and with with the people that we're talking with the game about in general, and things that they wanted, and a lot of that process was like, that sounds awesome, let's do that after we release the core game. We need a foundation. Those things are not foundation. Those are later additions. And so a lot of those ideas were sort of just held, which we're seeing now. We're seeing a bunch of those ideas come out. But yeah, transformations are something where we're like, okay, if it's a boon and a bane, essentially, not perfectly one-to-one on the features, but not one boon and one bane, but holistically, the idea is that they have an upside and a downside. Then you can add them to your loadout. And it doesn't really, the balance should, theoretically, if and when we get the feedback and are able to balance them correctly.
The void is unbalanced.
The void isn't, tell us. The whole point of the void is that they could be unbalanced, but in success, they would be balanced enough that you could add them to any character and have that.
So the transformations do not eliminate your ancestry.
No.
They just stack on top
Ancestry,
of it.
community, and transformation.
And that's the reason why you have that negative aspect. Because otherwise that one, I'll just be a werewolf vampire that only has the positive traits or something, whatever. But that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So now you can be that ribbit that turns into a werewolf.
Totally, and I think one of the important things, so fun, one of the important things for us there was that it is it's affecting who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's transforming that character, and also, and we put this in the text, like it's something that the table can opt into, that the GM can bring to a campaign, but it's not something that is like when you're making a character, you wouldn't go like, I'm choosing my ancestry, my community, and my transformation, right? It's like, no, we're gonna opt into this. It could even be something that comes into play later. Like, there's nobody who's a vampire, and then you encounter a vampire, and one of the party members becomes one. We give you the option for.
I'm dying for people who playtest this to tell us about their character dying off and then getting brought back as a reanimated or as a ghost.
Yeah. Or vampire.
That's the dream. Or any of it.
Yeah,
but that's the dream.
Yeah, totally. And then we dropped a bunch of stuff on the Void as well that were just updates to what we had released before, which we're really excited about. And we've already seen people expressing their opinions about those, mostly, thankfully, positive. They've liked what we've done, so that's been really good. Fingers crossed that continues. But also, we love to see the people that are like, I actually like this better, or this worked better for me, or like, oh, this feels weird, because those kinds of things give us the opportunity to continue to refine before we go to print.
Yeah.
People have noticed that there's a considerable amount of spooky content on the Void right now.
Yes, I have noticed that as well.
And have been speculating, and it's so funny. I'm like, bold of you to not think that we're just all spooky.
Right.
A lot of that spooky content, honestly, was like, this doesn't belong in core.
Right.
Yeah.
like it doesn't belong in core for all these spooky things, but
because it's so genre specific, and that is such a rich genre.
Right. And so we're like,
it's hard to fit into also Daggerheart.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, well, let's hold it and then let's release it so that down the line so that people can try it. But we just like spooky stuff.
It was hard to hold spooky from core.
It was.
All the fun things are always hard to hold back.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely the right choice for core to be as strong as it possibly could be.
What was important to capture for vampire? Like this is what I like about those, is there is this cost. You get this really cool ability, like for vampire you have bite, but then you have to worry about if you run out of certain tokens, you start getting disadvantage on things. So like but that's the buy-in. That's something I've loved in, like, there have been other systems that messed around with pluses and minuses. That's been part of role-playing games, but this really kind of hits the nail on the head.
We tried to make it really streamlined. I think that was the biggest thing, is we didn't want to make it complex. We didn't want to make
really
it like,
complex. If you can get into the weeds.
It gets so complex, and I think there's a world for that. That's just not what we're doing with these in this iteration of them, right? So like, I'm really excited about that. I don't know if you want to talk about kind of where we came from with that.
They also function as a scaffolding. So many things in Daggerheart function as a scaffolding, if not everything.
I know.
But like ancestries, like communities, the idea is to present something that people can build on top of. So it is for a campaign frame or a table or a GM to decide if vampires are struggle in the sunlight, if they are vulnerable to a stake through the heart, if they can't go near holy symbols of certain kinds. That's not for cards that we're making, that's for specific lore. And so when we were distilling it down and talking about vampires, the kind of two pillars were they're hot and they're hungry, which is like vampires are always really good at stuff and really strong and really suave and really hot.
Fast.
How do we
They're really fast.
How do we make that happen? Like the Lestat of it all.
Yeah.
And then the hunger is the classic vampire thing. I crave blood, I need blood. So those were the two pillars that went on the card, and the rest is gravy.
Whereas something like Forbiddance, or being, someone having to invite you in, is a hard thing to make a flaw if there are no buildings.
And also, it's not always fun. It is fun,
but that's
or
a good
it's
thing
not.
to add to your character. Like, this is the type of vampire I want to play.
Well, and we can talk about in a campaign frame, like, hey, in this campaign frame, this is how we're playing with vampires. Vampires are a part of this. And in this lore, in this world that we're playing in, or in this setting, this is how they're affected. And so those campaign mechanics in a campaign frame, or just in a campaign that you're building on your own, we hope that it encourages you to like find what works for the setting that you're in, because there's so many different kinds of vampires with so many different rules across the world that we're like, let's make this streamlined version of this, like an ancestry or a community, and then let you go play.
It's an example of saying yes until you have to say no. By not including the really specific lore, like inviting someone in, we are saying yes to that lore, but by keeping the really specific, more narrative details out, it keeps us from having to say no. Because if someone doesn't want to play with a vampire that you have to invite in, Daggerheart is not in any way stopping you. And if you do want to play with that, which I do, I want vampires to have to be invited in. I love that. It's absolutely available, and there's nothing stopping you. And so the constant streamlining, so much of designing for Daggerheart is writing and then rewriting and shortening it and like weeding out all of the different pieces. We always joke now when we're working that the like really good cards have so much white space. It feels like such a win. We're like, oh, look at that. It's so simple.
It's so empty. Which I think actually speaks to something else that we have coming out, which is the homebrew kit. That we're really excited for. And the homebrew kit goes into a lot of that. Not only gives you a lot of the design pillars that we built Daggerheart Core off of, but also breaks down like when you're building an ancestry, like what was our thought process? Like what were we trying to do? We're designing the art for those. What was the intention with it? When you're designing weapons or armor or even classes or domains, like what were we thinking? And take from that what you want and leave behind the stuff that doesn't resonate with you.
And so you do have this homebrew kit coming out. And what is the importance of that to like the community and for people who maybe want to design their own adventures or maybe eventually create something with Daggerheart? Like, because I've been wondering that intent as well.
So I think first and foremost, it's so that people that are using the game and want to build on the stuff in the game have a place that they can go to get answers about the intention so that they can make whatever they are creating align, if they want to, with core or with the rest of the stuff we're putting out. I think on top of that, it becomes a really great resource if you are looking to build things to share or to sell with Daggerheart. We look at people playing and making things for Daggerheart as being a really important part. It's the other conversation. The conversation between us and the GMs out of the book is really important. We always talk about what that conversation is like. How are we communicating our rules and our intent in the book with the person who's reading it, oftentimes the GM or in the player section of the players. And then there's the conversation between the GM and the players themselves, right? So we're in conversation with the GM and in conversation with the players for part of the book. And then the GM is in conversation with the players during play. And so this is also putting us as the dev team in conversation with people that are building in whatever scope or sense that is.
Yeah, we're famous in our friend group for hacking games while we're playing them with our friends, because different tables, different people, just different nights of the week need different things. And so often that does feel like a conversation with the designer. Like, why am I choosing to tweak this tonight? And so the homebrew kit, I think, hopefully feels like a little bit of a physical manifestation of that conversation, because if people know our thought process, hopefully it also supports them in knowing when they might want to work with that and when they might want to work against it. And when we had the first kind of working version of the homebrew kit going, I was red teaming it and using it to make designs that we've been playing with that are now on the Void, and trying to see how it worked. And I was working on Reborn, which is our community that sort of breaks the rule of community a little bit. And that was a moment where, as one of the designers, I say, and this is when I break the rule that I've established. And somehow still in breaking that, it feels like it speaks to Daggerheart. And so I hope it facilitates that kind of exploration as much as anything.
Yeah, I think that the big thing that we're seeing is people just building lots of awesome stuff for Daggerheart, especially on the Reddit, on social media. And we wanted to provide them the tools to like help where we can. And so really it's like, hey, go make stuff. And if you want help making it, like, here's a whole kit to be able to do that with. And the other thing that is exciting for me about it is that it's a living document, meaning that like it is in its first edition, its first version, and we're gonna put it out in the world, and we're gonna see what people like, what's still confusing, what maybe we didn't cover in as much depth as they wanted, or anything that they're looking for that isn't in there. We're gonna take that in and then continue to iterate on it. And so know that it's like the first, but not the last of what that kit will contain. It's like, tell us what you like, tell us what works for you, and we can continue to build.
One thing that we talk about a lot in game design is what the game is asking for. It feels, I mean, you make things. I feel like you've probably had this experience of like, what is the thing that I'm creating asking me to do to bring it into the world? And I think that there is a trap sometimes where people design really wonderful tech or really wonderful things that are actually for a different game. And to use our games, for example, if we tried to design something with Candela ethos for Daggerheart, if we didn't acknowledge the game ethos that's inherent to Daggerheart, the gears would grind. Not because either game is bad or wrong, but because different games ask different things of players and designers and GMs. And so the homebrew kit feels also a little bit to me like the game sort of speaking for itself. Here are some things that we built in to Daggerheart that it will ask you for, and invite people to examine that, I think, in a really different way.
Yeah.
That was about 3 years ago at Gen Con. I mentioned like we were at a party and talking about Daggerheart, what would become Daggerheart, and you were talking about the cards and the system. And I was really blown away not only by the elegance of it, but also how passionate both of you were about it and good at articulating that passion. So I'm really excited to see a homebrew kit, because a lot of people are would-be designers and they lock up, they could become terrified.
Yeah.
And that happens too often. Yeah,
it's really intimidating to build stuff whole cloth. It's hard.
Well, especially because it's art and also math at the same time. And like you mentioned, like what does the game need? That's something that gets lost, because yeah, you can mathematically make something, you know, perfectly sound. It may be boring as hell.
Yeah.
Or you can make something that is all vibes. Well, there's no structure now.
Yeah.
But both of you have really honed in on something of a way that people like to play. I'm really excited to see this homebrew cube.
Thank you.
Full credit to you. From the time that I came on the game, because Spenser started Daggerheart even before we worked on Candela.
Yeah.
You have wanted the homebrew kit from the beginning.
It was one of the very first things that I set out. The card creator.
Yeah.
And the homebrew kit were two things that I was like, these, if we're gonna launch a game like this, these are the things that I feel really passionate about us supporting.
Yeah.
At, you know, within the first year of its launch, and we got there. We wanted the homebrew kit to come out with launch, and I think there was a.
Yeah, because having the card creator come out so early, I was like shocked. That was like day one.
We were really excited about the card creator.
The team worked really hard.
The team worked really hard on that collectively to make that happen. I really wanted homebrew kit to come out with the game launch, and very quickly realized that one, people need time to learn the game.
Yeah.
And two, we had just sprinted to delivery. And then, you know, full transparency, like the homebrew kit is coming post-design. So it's taking all the things that we sort of like landed on during the design phase and looking back at them retrospectively to like build out, like, what were we thinking when we made that? What was the, like, and we have all of our notes and we also have talked a lot about it. So it's like, okay, we're building communities. Let's talk about, you know, we laid out for ourselves, this is what communities are. And this is why we made these decisions with art. But how do we put that into a thing that people can read, as opposed to just the conversations that we have about them?
It's very funny trying to explain your thought process later in words that make sense to other people. Like, we had a lot of wonderful designers on Daggerheart. Spenser and I work together all the time on projects, both within and without Darrington. And so a lot of times we don't have to communicate ideas.
Yeah.
And it's just like horse sense. You just kind of know.
Yeah.
And sitting down and going, but why? And what does it mean? And having to make it concrete and explain it was very fun.
We both look at a mechanic and go, yeah, that one feels good, and this one isn't working. We both know that, but we don't know why we know that. Right, so it's breaking down like, okay, what is it? What's the juice? So anyway, it's gonna be cool. Hopefully we've done a good job. We'll see.
Yeah, that is a very typical problem. I mean, like it's like being a painter and having to explain to someone how to paint.
Some things are just vibes only.
I know. Yeah. So we try to explain that where it is vibes only, right? Like we talked about that in the.
Do you have advice for future designers? Because I mean, you've kind of taken this industry by storm. Like to launch something as impressive as Daggerheart is a huge achievement. What's your advice for folks? I mean, it can't possibly be settling in yet, or may never settle in, frankly. But it's such a well-designed game, and I really do mean that, because I don't hand out praise unless something's good, and then I try to keep my mouth shut if it's not.
Well, we tried. I mean, we put our whole hearts into it, and I think the amount of work and of the entire team, freelancers and full-time staff here combined, I mean, you can see it in the credits list.
Yeah.
It's a massive undertaking. Mm-hmm. And so, one, I think as a designer, for me, I still write stuff for Daggerheart that's bad all the time. So I think being easy on yourself.
Yeah, this morning.
I was gonna say, like, we were doing it this morning. So like, I think one, as a designer, knowing that it's a new game for all of us, and being okay to make mistakes there and try something and not get it right is above all like the important thing for me. Like, don't let the fact that you might do it wrong stop you from trying to make something you're excited for. Leaning into that, like, what is the core of what I want to make, and then in Daggerheart specifically, what might that look like? Now, there are plenty of other, I think, pieces of advice I would give, which we've sort of touched on a couple of them here, but the big one for me is, and it's in the homebrew kit, one of the design principles is streamline, then streamline again. Like, get it down to what you think the shortest it can be is, and then look at it and see if you can get it any tighter.
And it's not just about short in terms of words, even though it often is, but like, tight.
Yeah. And it's really hard. It's really hard to design tight. But if you go in with that knowledge that, hey, this is gonna have to fit on a card, then you can't make a weapon that has a feature that's 3 paragraphs, right? That's just not.
Yeah.
And maybe like in the future, there's like a bigger inventory thing that has, like, if you do its own feature that does that, like maybe there's a world in which that occurs. But for core, if you're building something that reflects what we've done, really focusing in on like, how do I align with the way that things have been written already? Streamlining is like the #1 challenge I think we see.
Yeah. For new designers, I think one of the pieces of advice that I find myself revisiting all the time, that I think just applies to creating anything in general, is people always say, like, first get it out in the world and then make it good, which is very difficult to live by. But especially when people are new designers, when they're homebrewing, allowing something to be imperfect and filing off the edges as you go. I mean, you can see that in the void. That is what we were doing loudly with people's help.
And with the open beta.
And with the open beta. I think I'm only able to sit here and be where I am because I had a podcast where every week I had to get it out, and it didn't have to be perfect, it had to be done.
Yeah.
And I want everything to be perfect, and I want everyone to like me, and I want straight A's, and like life would be so good if I could have all of those things. But TTRPGs as a medium feel like this beautiful ode to imperfection and the ephemeral nature of creation, because we improv things, and if someone maybe didn't remember something from last week and the new choice that they made is stronger, we all just file off the edges and we keep going. And the story maybe isn't exactly what we thought it was, and we get somewhere better. And so when new designers come into the space, so often the thing that I repeat is like, just do it. Just do it again. Do it and leave it alone and let it be bad and pick up the next thing and just keep doing it. And that's what we try to do all the time.
And learn from that iteration.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that one of the other things that you and I challenge ourselves with a lot is that, like, we give lots of notes. We give tons of notes to each other and to anybody who's working on the team. Like, our editors give us lots of notes. I think in the homebrew kit alone, we had like 2,500 notes that we left
on one draft.
On one draft.
Wow.
So we just iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate. And I think being okay with it not being okay is really hard, but ultimately that's how you produce the best stuff.
I laughed because when we're editing chapters of the book, we maxed out on the number of notes that Google Docs would allow 4 times on one chapter.
Perfect.
And our editors are amazing, and that's kind of how everyone works. And it's crazy when you take the number like that, but it's such a lovely way to create things.
Yeah.
It can't be that precious if it's just always being tweaked and refined. And as long as everyone has a clear vision, then we all get there.
Well, and I think that's what's nice. Like, at the end of the day, as the lead designer, I get to go like, no, I'm making the call that this is the way that it is, and I get to sort of hold the parameters down where they need to be held. And in doing that, it's sort of the say yes until you can say no principle that we were just talking about, which is like, in doing that, I can let all of us run. Because I know at the end of the day, if I need to rein it in, if I need to make choices, I can. And everybody can advocate for what they think is best up to the point where somebody makes the decision. Whoever's the lead on the project makes the decision about how we're going to move forward. But that advocacy, it makes it so that we're not worried about stepping on each other's toes if we have difference of opinions about things, right? Like, I think that that's one of the beautiful things about the creative group that we formed here, is that we all work together to make it the best, and we can give everybody the opportunity to say their piece, and then we can make the decision about how it actually moves forward. And that I guess, speaking to the advice for new designers, is to say, like, don't take criticism as judgment. If you run a playtest and somebody says they don't like a thing, the biggest mistake I made as a designer was getting defensive about that thing that I made.
Yeah.
And instead, usually, it's best to either ask more questions or to just sit back and listen to people have the conversation and then take that in. That's a huge lesson I had to learn, because you feel excited and precious about the things that you made, and you know, there's so
or you feel
important.
bad that you didn't do a good enough job. Like,
Yeah,
there's
we feel bad about
100
doing a good
wrong
enough
ways
job.
to go with
right.
feedback.
And I think it just setting the precedent that, like, it's okay for it to not be good.
Yeah.
Like, that is okay. Starting from that place.
As long as the goal, as long as the goal is to get good.
Is to get good.
Yeah.
Get good.
Then starting from that place makes it much easier to make it great, I think.
And also, taste develops before skill.
Right.
Like, my taste far outreaches my own ability, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's how I feel about myself.
How I feel all the time.
So-
All the time.
Yeah.
And so when I look at something and I go, that's not right, very often I know it's not right even before I know how to fix it. And that's when I go, Spenser, Rob, someone help me, and we figure it out together, because I can see that it is not right, and my taste is beating out my ability to fix it. And so I find shifting the notes experience from a conversation about taste rather than a judgment on someone's skill really helps me, at least.
Yeah, I can't even count the number of times I've written a paragraph and gone, okay, Rowan, here's the idea.
Do you do this? Do you have the shit draft?
Bad draft. we have like, we go like, this is going to be really bad. And I know that we use this all the time, where it's like, the expectation is that what you're writing right now is not great, and if it comes back great, I'm going to be disappointed in you. So go write it bad, because then you actually write it.
Yeah.
And then we get it to great. And so, so many times, countless times, I've been like, Rowan, I know what I want to say with this paragraph. I'm going to write it so bad. Can you try and like get it there? And
it's so much easier to work off words on the page than no words on the page.
So as designers, get it on the page, write it bad if you have to, and then revise.
That's great advice. Thank you. Speaking of campaign frames, again, the void, the playtest material points towards something spooky. I happen to know something not necessarily spooky, still can be a little spooky. There's something romantic on its way. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So we're doing a romantasy campaign frame, which is very exciting. And the two of us actually have been so deep in dev on other stuff that is happening. Like there's a whole other group of humans that are working on that. And we're really excited for them to sink their teeth in and develop it. But I know that it is such like a fun genre that I think just being able to capture that with a campaign frame is very cool.
What you said kind of begets the question, take all of the spookiness and then make them kiss. Like, it's perfect. Everything goes together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad that team has been building that up while we've had our heads down on something else, because everyone came in with so much passion for romantasy, and folks are really enjoying Tusk Love, and you can just see that appreciation for the genre there. So I'm glad that people are like really diving into it.
And that's weirdly the catalyst for all of this, is a little bit of Tusk Love.
It's like, it's funny because that came out, and then everybody was excited, and then we were playing with what that kind of genre would look like. And I think for me, that's the fun about campaign frames, is like, I can take a subgenre or sometimes a subgenre, right, and really focus down Daggerheart into that genre and make mechanics that work with that. And then all of a sudden, when you sit down to play with your players, there's an expectation for what the tone, what the feel, what the style, what the characters, what the setting is going to be like, which I find really challenging when I sit down and don't already have an idea, and I don't have, or if I'm like trying to recruit players and I'm like, hey, I really want to run a game that's kind of in this vein.
Yeah.
That when we sit down to play, some people's expectation is that they're playing, they're playing a really serious, gritty character, and somebody else is making boat face, right? And like those two things existing in the same place can be really tough, I think, on parties. And so that's part of why we have that session 0 work that we have in the book of like establishing tone and feel and what kind of things we want to see and what we don't want to see if you're building your own campaign. But campaign frames are kind of a shortcut if you have an idea or if you're inspired by something that's in the book.
It was more of a challenge to make core with less lore. I think sometimes people think less words means easier time, and allowing Daggerheart to be a chassis or foundation for campaign frames was kind of a North Star for us in a lot of ways. And so now that we've done that, getting to bring in all the campaign frames is like a delight. When we were writing core, I was like, all right, gloves are off, let's go so deep into post-apocalyptic tech as magic. And it was really delightful after spending so much time trying to really simplify. And so it's having this campaign frame coming out and seeing what people are building at home, it's like, oh, like a breath of fresh air.
I know, we have so many campaign frames we're excited for, and not enough time to build any. It's like we're trying to build so much stuff all the time, and it just feels like there's not enough hours in the day for us to like build everything that we want for Daggerheart.
If a devil wants to offer me 36 hours in a day in exchange for my soul, I would say yes. In a heartbeat. Make me a warlock, let's go.
Now, I mean, speaking of how much is being worked on, a couple of friends of mine now work here. Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford.
Yeah.
They are now here. What is that like to have them part of the Daggerheart team? I assume they're working on Daggerheart.
So they've been working on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like wild. I know that all of us, were so ecstatic that they wanted to come on and play in the world of Daggerheart. And so they're working on some really exciting pieces for us, with us. And it's really fun to be able to just like have them in the room and to throw around ideas for those things and other things and just talk design. And like, I think part of the challenge of coming in on a game that like sort of just launched is that everybody has to make sure that like we're aligned. And so it was so nice when they came in and immediately were like, we get it. Like we love it and we get it and we want to build for this, and we saw that in the work that they've been doing. And so there's some really exciting stuff coming down the line. We can't talk too much about it, but it is very exciting to have some absolute legends on the team, building and also just discussing design and allowing them to sort of spread their wings, because they've been in another system for so long, and that system has certain things that like, certain parameters by which you can't move out of, because just by nature of like
legacy.
That game,
yeah,
legacy
is just how it is.
And so it's really cool to watch them spread their wings and try something new.
They are so kind and so fun, and really came in and saw the Matrix, which is the thing that we're always most focused on when people come in and design for Daggerheart. Just figuring out if they understand Daggerheart and what it's asking for, as we said, and they absolutely saw it. And actually, the first time that I met Jeremy Crawford, we were in a massive room at the Daggerheart launch party, and he was all the way at the other side of the room and had picked up a copy of Daggerheart and was smelling the book.
Yeah, it's a good smelling book.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I saw that from across the room. I saw a person smelling our book.
Yeah.
And I like materialized before him. I sprinted. I left the conversation I was in. I was like, so sorry, 1 second. Sprinted across the room and was like, does our book smell good? And he was such a sport and so nice and friendly. And I was like, oh, one of us. Like
we all smelled the book when it first came out to make sure it smelled good.
That's the first thing we did.
It's a big factor in making sure that the the delivery is correct.
It's very important. Yeah, I mean, despite I've known Chris and Jeremy for about 8 years now, and they're two of the most intelligent, most passionate, and kind people I've ever known. So I'm really happy that they're with your team here at Daggerheart and with Critical Role.
I'm just so honored they think Daggerheart smells good.
It's hard not to smell books. That's something that we get to do that we don't really design for.
When I was talking to him about it, we were talking about book smell, as you do, and it occurred to me, you know how like, God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Whatever. You know how antique book smell is like elite level, like an old used bookstore. It occurred to me that now that there is a Daggerheart book and it exists in the world, that one day down the line,
it'll be an antique.
Daggerheart will have antique book smell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dream.
Cool.
That's crazy.
Pretty cool.
That's crazy.
So cool.
On top of everything else, because I mean, it's been fantastic having the card system. It's something I gravitate towards. I've grown up with character sheets, and those are fantastic, and you still have elements of that. But just having a card handed to someone, this we can do, you teach them so quickly. But now you're doubling down. You're able to buy now your class and your subclass. You can get all the cards that you possibly need in one pack. Via this Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, so when discussing what the other products would be for Daggerheart, one of the very first things we talked about was like, okay, people are gonna buy the core set, they're gonna get the book, they're gonna get the cards. Now, one of the big things we didn't wanna do, I don't think we've ever said this, so, but to be totally transparent, like one of the things that we didn't wanna do was like, put the cards and the book separate on the shelf to be like, here's the full set of cards, here's the full book,
Right.
and you have to buy both. Because people would pick up one and not pick up the other. They would leave with one and not the other. And with a book, you could get away with no cards. And we have a way of being able to do that. But if you just bought the cards, that would be a really difficult experience. Because you would get home and have a bunch of cards and be like, wait, I was supposed to buy something else. And we didn't want people to be confused about what the product was, especially coming from other tabletop role-playing games where cards were like an accessory. And for us, they're a very core part of Daggerheart that it can function without, but is not really designed inherently to function without. It's an optional thing to function without them.
Yeah.
And so class packs were one of those things where like, okay, but this is the kind of thing where we could package everything you need for a class, and then you would know, like, I'm pulling that off the shelf. It says it's a class pack. I know that I can build my class out of this, but like, I can buy this and slap it down to the table and be ready to go for a wizard or for a bard or, you know, a druid. And it is inherently a less expensive product than the core. So people have a quick way in. And you know, they will get everything they need to be able to build a character.
Right.
But it's not like offering just a stack of cards that now I get home and thought I bought a card game and it wasn't, you know, what it was supposed to be. So that was sort of the in-between, sort of to be transparent about like where we came from with it. We were really excited to be able to get cards in people's hands, not having to buy the full set of cards, but being able to be like, this is what I want to play.
Yeah.
And so this was our answer to that. I don't know if you have anything that you want to share from the
The
inside
thing
of that.
that excites me so much about class packs is what wonderful conversion tools they can be. I'm sure many people have the experience of being a GM and wanting to get people to play a game, and you're like, do you want to come play? And I think having a smaller bite like a class pack to give someone and say, like, come on, the water's warm, it's gonna be fun, is a really nice opportunity. And I also think class packs, for me, seem like a really beautiful way to support the GM. I think there are experiences people have had of kind of expecting the GM to do all of the legwork of building a campaign and helping to create the characters and all of that. And if players get class packs, it's putting all of it in their hands, everything they need. So the GM might have their own set, but the player at home can sit down and go, okay, the next level I'm gonna do this, but what if I try this combination?
Yeah.
And I hope that it really empowers players as well. So it's like, it's both lore and support.
It's
Yeah.
a nice giftable thing as well for the
Oh,
holidays.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
we imagine that there's a world in which somebody would go and buy it for their, you know, for somebody who's been playing a class or has talked about wanting to play Daggerheart,
Yeah.
and they have a GM that might want to run it, and they go and buy them a new, you know, pack for them to play.
My dream customer would be like an auntie that's like, oh, I heard you like Daggerheart, so I
Yeah.
got you this. Like, the support that could come from that is just, that's my dream.
I know. So I think that's really fun, and also I'm really excited about the fact that that we're able to gauge how much and what people want from doing a Kickstarter, as opposed to just launching a like product in full. I know that there was a lot of discussion about like, how do we do this kind of thing? How do we gauge how many people are going to want this? And by running that, it allows us to kind of get the community involved and say like, hey, do you want this thing? Because we'll learn a lot about like, especially about like what class packs most people buy, and like, you know, what are people interested in? Do they want all 9? Do they buy 3 of them? Do they buy 1 of them? There's a really interesting kind of model there too, from a Darrington like, we're trying stuff side to navigate.
Make and do what people want.
Now, like shifting gears a little bit, I'm really excited for those packs.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 new creators coming in, not new, but new to Daggerheart.
Yeah.
Keith Baker and Jen Ellis.
Yeah.
You know, Keith Baker being very famous for Eberron.
Yeah.
That's a big one in D&D, and having him on board And these two creators, like, what is their background and what are they potentially going to work on?
Well,
No, please.
when we were working on Core, one of the things we were really excited to do was bring on designers that we've admired for a really long time. We wear those influences on our sleeves.
We did that a lot with like Felix Isaacs.
Yeah, being able to tap in Felix Isaacs from the really work on Wild Sea, John Harper, Meg Baker, the mother of the apocalypse. Like having those designers involved was such like an amazing moment for us, and also kind of an effort to show how much we love the TTRPG community as a whole, because we're also lucky to know each other and collaborate and give each other notes. And so having Keith and Jen join us now feels like a continuation of what we were trying to start with Core. And so mind-boggling.
I mean, Keith Keith won't remember this, but Keith and I met years ago. God, maybe 10 years ago, when, God, I don't even remember the date, but he was releasing the Scott Pilgrim card game and had there was an event happening at some pop-up shop where they were selling it, and they were also offering garlic noodles, like where you could go pick them up with the game. So you go buy the game and you get free garlic noodles, because the game has and the IP has like a garlic noodles kind of thing. And then the very lovely, incredible actress who played Knives. Is that Knives Chow?
Yeah, Knives Chow.
Knives Chow was at the event as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it was like a nice like celebration of the card game and stuff. And so I went, having just gotten into sort of back into games, and loved Scott Pilgrim, and showed up, and Keith and I just chatted for like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes about games, and he had no idea. I mean, I was like a dude waiting in line to pick up his game, and was so kind, and I was so excited about it, and was asking him development questions, and he just took time out of his day to be able to like talk with me. And that was one of the first instances of somebody who was a legend in the space just taking time to chat. And I remember walking away from that and being like, wow, if I ever have the chance to be in this industry, or any industry, in a way that Keith Baker is, I want to be like Keith. I want my interactions with people to leave them feeling like the way that I left this interaction. And so it's very cool all these years later to like have somebody like Keith, and specifically to have Keith on this project with us, developing something new for Daggerheart, because they were such an inspiration for me back when I was first starting out. So that's what excites me. I just want to collaborate with great people who are excited about the work that they do, and we can't talk about quite what it is yet, but we've seen it and we're really excited for what it is, and can't wait to collaborate with them. We're so excited to have both Keith Baker and Janet Ellis on, because Together Studios have made some incredible games before. I mean, the table presence from something like Illamont is wild. I remember going to Gen Con and seeing it for the first time, being like, what is this game? And then, of course, Phoenix Dawn Command is one of those games that uses cards as well, and there's inspiration, I think, from all over the game space, and having cards to play a role-playing game is something that's very familiar to them from that game. So to be partnering with people that have made games that we look up to is very fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to them and maybe even pick their brain a little, because they design as a pair, and we have a really large and wonderful team, and then often it is Spenser and I putting our heads together and designing as a pair. So I really like to see how people collaborate and what their flow is, and if they secretly have telepathy and all of those things.
All those important things that we check for. Yeah.
The most important skill.
Thank you both so much for your time
Yeah.
and your creativity and passion. I always like talking to both of you.
Thank you.
It prevented me from having a typical good time at a party because I could have just talked about
We bring
design
the
and what you were
boring
working
times.
on. Yeah, it was like amongst nerds in Gen Con, nerdy right around the table.
We're that we are. We bring the nerd. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
If you want to support more video content like this, go ahead and like, subscribe, leave a comment on the YouTube channel below, and also make sure to check out our Patreon page. That helps support future video content like this, and we make playtest materials for things like D&D and Daggerheart as well. Thank you so much for watching.